everybody, and welcome back to the inn. Big card dump. We got more cards to discuss. Let's get started. Evolving Spores. 4-cost druid spell with the effect of adapt your minions. Now, to really just kind of start this off and just get it going. With Evolving Spores, you're gonna want a deck that's gonna have a good sizable board with this. So, Token Druid? Definitely a thing that you can go be like, hey, drop all this stuff and then adapt it and make it better. I don't see something like Jade Druid running this because they want to focus on their Jades, but at the same time, I still flick the light bulb in my head because it's just like, you can adapt your minions, you can stealth them. Yes, I can. You can make them poisonous. True. +1/+1. Stop. Divine Shield! Stop! Because it's just, it can be nice for that. But, to shift back to a more realistic approach to Evolving Spores, I feel that you're more or less going to want to play this with Token Druid. So, boom!
Yeah, it's a very nice card, nice cost. The fact is basically adapting all your minions. I don't think it's going to be played in Jade whatsoever because Jade needs to focus on their spells, giving them other effects, mainly some forms of removal to kind of help them get through that early game. Basically, ways to give them card draw, ways to get removal, help them ramp. That's what they're trying to focus on. They're not going to be trying to focus on adapting their Jades, frankly, because they don't need to adapt their Jades. This will just end up being an unnecessary card that can bog down a deck that really needs to be sleek and refined. I think that there's room for this card in other types of Druid decks, just not the more refined ones. But yeah, I think that this could see play in Druid. I think it's a pretty cool card, and I think people might make decks that kind of fit this into it. I don't think it's going to be fitting into a pre-existing deck. So next up, we have Spirit Echo, which is a 3-cost shaman spell that says give your minions death rattle, give your minions death rattle, return this to your hand. This is pretty nice. It's a way if you kind of want some of the minions that are out there right now that when they die that you can basically get them back to your hand and basically be able to play them again. We're talking about some of the major probably maybe some of your elementals, maybe your thing from below. You know, you just want some of these minions that you kind of need to play again. This is a card I've been messing around with because I've been arguing whether I want to put it in my totem deck. That's going to be in Wild. Just because for me, this gives me another shot at my win condition. Sure, I would probably be bringing back some minions that I don't necessarily want in my hand, but if I can just get some back some of my key minions, this could be worth it. And I think this is going to be a situational shaman card. I'm not sure this is something you should just slot in, and probably, to be fair, I don't think a lot of shamans probably will slot this in. Probably Murlocs, maybe Elementals, some of those more synergistic decks, or some of those decks that really want to get certain minions back. But I don't think this is a necessary card for Shaman. But I think it will end up being in decks that kind of just want to get their key minions and their key strategies back in their hand if they happen to die. So it could be cool, but I think that Shaman, for the most part, will want to kind of focus on either alternative win conditions in Bloodlust or removal control type spells. So unless there's a specific reason somebody's putting Spirit Echo in their deck, probably mess with their to enhance their synergies, chances are it's really not going to see play.
Yeah, and I mean, you basically hit all the nails on the head that I was going to hit this card of, like, just returning stuff to your hand. I mean, like, you can see the artwork. It's got Murlocs on it. They're kind of trying to just give the wink, bump, and nod in the direction of, like, hey, you should play Murloc Shaman. And, you know, use this to be able to just return those Murlocs whenever they die or whatever to your hand and just be, you know, pretty laid back and chill with it. And I'm just like, I see what you're doing there. I like that. At the same time, it is Shaman. Shaman is the class that loves to focus on its board and the board presence, and giving everything on its board death rattle, return it to the hand, just makes it where I can just go, hey, looky here. Pop, 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 pop. All those minions you just destroyed or got rid of, they're back on my board. I see more this card being a wild card rather than an being in the standard side of things, because just a lot of their powerful stuff is being rotated into wild. So I think that's where it'll find its home. Good there? Because next up, we have Tortollan Primalist. He's an 8 cost, 5/4, battle cry, discover a spell, and cast it with random targets. Mini Yogg for 8, but it's just you're discovering a spell and then random target. So I'm gonna play him. I'm gonna pick Polymorph, and then I'm gonna watch him polymorph himself, and I'm just gonna be like, well, fuck. But I mean, like, yeah, that's the risk you take with this. As far as him being actual constructed play, I doubt it. I really do, because of just he's too much risk for the reward. So I don't see him being in the constructed side of things. So, Bulb.
He's very interesting. Because his effect is a discover effect, you have a higher chance of actually getting a more useful and guided spell that might actually be able to help you. So that means that you can actually use it to kind of target, do whatever you need to do, because if you get the right kind of spell, it's not going to matter about the randomness, because certain spells work in certain ways, and you can use that to your advantage.
Twisting Nether.
Yeah, well, you're not going to get Twisting Nether unless you're playing this in Warlock. If you're playing a Warlock, you get Twisting Nether. If you're playing it in Mage, you could pick a Flame Strike. That's just going to hit your opponent's board.
Yeah, I was mainly just giving like the one card that would be like a really good benefit.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of cards that can be beneficial. So I think you'll be able to focus this a lot more than I think that you're giving credit for, Eddie. I think the problem isn't the effect of discovering spell and casting random targets. That's not bad, and it can be used beneficially for you more times than not. The problem is, I think that he just costs way too much for his effect. I think he's just too expensive for any decks that would want to run him. And I think that's why he's probably not going to see much play, is because he's an 8-drop. That was one of the big things that we were arguing about, because you're like, we were talking about, because you're like, you can put it in Randomonium. I'm going, I'm tempted. But the problem is, he's an 8 mana cost card. And you don't want to put too many of those high-end cards in your deck. And I already have an in-game deck, in-game plays already set out in those type of decks, and that means Tortollan Primalist just won't find a home. And I think that's the main problem with him, is his cost. He just costs way too much for the effect, and I think because of that he's probably not going to see much play.
Oh yeah, no way.
So next up we have Spikeridged Steed, which is a 6-cost Paladin card, or Paladin spell that gives a minion +2/+6 and taunt, and when it dies it summons a Stegodon. We're actually going to be getting to Stegodon in a... Should we talk about Stegodon now?
Might as well.
Well, we're going to cover 2 cards right now. Spikeridged Steed. So, it gives any minion +2/+6 and taunt. And when it dies, it basically summons a Stegodon. Now, Stegodon is not just a token. It's an actual card, guys. So you can actually include a Stegodon without Spikeridged Steed, and you can actually Spikeridged Steed a Stegodon, so you have a Stegodon riding a Stegodon. And the Stegodon is a 4-cost 2/6 beast with taunt. So essentially, that's what Spikeridged Steed is. They're literally riding the card Stegodon. They get the pluses that this neutral minion provides, and they get the taunt that the neutral minion provides. If you happen to kill off the buffed minion, Stegodon survives. Which actually makes Spikeridged Steed, I think, actually a pretty good buff for 6 costs, because you're going to get a free 4 cost. It kind of means that you are, wait for it, you're creating your own Sludge Boacher, which is kind of cool. Stegodon by itself, I'm not sure if Stegodon's a great 4 cost, to be honest. I think he works more. I think he's a lot better getting him from Spikeridged Steed than he is just being played by himself. I think there are probably much better 4 costs out there, to be honest. If you're playing any sort of taunt minion, and if you don't care about the taunt, then there are better 4 cost minions out there. So I think as a neutral minion, Stegodon's not going to see much play, not even in Taunt Warrior, because Taunt Warrior has better options. But I think getting him from Spikeridged Steed is actually very good. So playing the neutral minion, not so much. Playing Spikeridged Steed, worth it.
Yeah, you've kind of just hit all of my nails again. If anything, when it comes to the Spikeridged Steed, I know you'll probably want to play it with the Paladin Quest as one of those like mid to late game cards that you can play and just be like, alright, here, take this, get buffs, and go. But at the same time, I also look at it and I go, this isn't exactly viable as an actual, like, for something for constructed. Now, getting it off of Ivory Knight, yeah, sure. I can see having the 6 health and just getting the free, being able to slap a minion with taunt being great. Hell, if anything, I can see you slapping this onto Wicker Flame Burn Bristle just to be able to make him beefier. Or, you know, Tyrion or whoever, if you can get it to live long enough, just to make your set-in minions beefier. And then, of course, there is the Stegodon that pops out from it, as well as being a standalone card. If the card doesn't get polymorph or anything like that, the Stegodon that pops out, awesome. You've got, as Bulb mentioned, the Sludge Belcher. Alone, something like Control / Taunt Warrior won't run it. But it also does open up the ideal of maybe instead of running like Carrion Grub in Hunter, you now can play this in the 4 slot. And instead of having to go like with a combo of like Houndmaster, Grub, you can now just play this and save yourself and circumvent 2 cards. Yeah, sure, you're losing the buff from the Houndmaster, but at the same time, it's still just a quicker dropper for it. So...
Yeah. As far as Spikeridged Steed, you're going saying, I think we might see it in Constructed. I can see where people might try avoiding it, but I still think it's a good card. Just because you can create your own Sledge Belchers. I think in the right hands, this is going to be a powerful card. So I think it will see play. And I'm hoping people realize that with all of the nonsense cards that Paladin has gotten, this one's actually not that bad.
Yeah, I can at least agree with you there. This isn't horrible. But, I mean, when we get to the end and discuss, like, who basically, you know, got the best, who got the worst, I've got an argument about who got the worst end of the stick with this set. So, are we good on...
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So next up, we have Cornered Sentry. It is a 2-cost, 2/6 warrior rare, which has Taunt, Battle Cry, summon 3 1/1 raptors for your opponent. Alright.
Speaking of 2/6 taunts.
Speaking of 2/6 taunts. When we kind of take a look at that slot, and you take a look at that stat line breakdown, you've also got Dirty Rat, which is a neutral, which yanks a random creature from your opponent's hand. And that's where we get into the, basically, I would say the debate in a sense. Because with Cornered Sentry, yes, you are giving your opponent 3 1/1 raptors. On the other end, when you play something like Dirty Rat, you could pull out their Deathwing. You could pull out the 4-mana 7/7. You could pull out a lot of big things from your opponent's hand. I think, in all honesty, in comparison to the two, that Cornered Sentry is the better of the two. Overall, I'm not sure, like, okay, I'll actually say it. I think this will see play for one big reason, and that's the Warrior Quest. So if anything, I will pass it over to Bolt.
Yeah, the problem with comparing it to Dirty Rat is mainly used to basically help control the board and basically get something out, and then you don't play Dirty Rat on turn 2.
No, you don't.
You don't. You play Dirty Rat, and then you have something to follow that up. Cornered Sentry, on the other hand, is meant to be played because those 3/1/1 Raptors are kind of there to kind of give your opponent something, kind of like Leroy Jenkins, in a sense, that your opponent gets some minions and you get to be able to play something.
Charge.
Yeah, and that's kind of with Cornered Sentry. It's a 2/6 for 2 taunt. In order to get that, you give your opponent some minions. For the most part, this isn't a bad thing. with certain classes, it might be a mistake. I'm not sure if I would want to play this up against Hunter or Paladin. Just because of what they want to. Paladin, it's not as big a deal, I think, but Paladin can buff things, and Hunter is kind of going to want those raptors. Thank you very much.
Yeah, they will.
But overall, this is not bad. I'm debating whether I will be running it. I probably will, to be honest, but it is a debate for me because I always have a thing about giving my opponent stuff or putting myself on the back foot too much. But stat-wise, this might not be bad. I guess it's just a thing of you're gonna have to play it by ear. You're gonna have to kind of feel out what your opponent has, what your opponent is going to be doing, and that's, and then take it from there. Because depending on your opponent, they might just be able to remove this because of the raptors you gave them.
Oh yeah.
But it's decent. There might be better 2 costs out there. I don't know, but it's okay. Next up, we have Tyrantus, which is the Druid legendary. He's a 10-cost 12/12 beast that can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. There are a lot of people who are calling this card garbage. They're wrong. Hey, he's a 10-cost 12/12, blah, blah, blah. You know what else is a 10-cost 12/12? Freaking Deathwing. And guys, of all the classes, Druid is the one to get big minions out quicker. It's kind of what the class does. This meta is probably going to be going more towards mid-range, late game. We know we've been able to do it before. I think this meta is going to probably do it. Druid has the tools to be able to pull this off. And we're going to be talking about some of those tools later. But Druid is going to be able to get this minion out. And guys, the effect is monumental. With anything else, yeah, being huge, you'd roll your eyes. But it's not only huge, you can't kill it via targeting it with a spell or a hero power. Which means, in order to take this thing out, you're going to have to get creative. And by the time Tyrantus is coming out, Druid's going to also be bringing out other big things. So, this might not be the only thing on your mind. I think it's a decent card. I think it's a pretty good card. Now, it has to have the right decks for it, because Druid runs ramp, but Druid can run ramp, and Tyrantus is going to be, I think, a card to watch out for. I think this thing coming out and coming out and actually killing people will catch a lot of players by surprise.
I got the beast in my sights. Tyrantus. I will be the first person to go out and admit, when I first saw this card, I just went, this card is garbage. And it's just like, yes, Bob, you make a very compelling argument of, you have to be able to get it creative to be able to get rid of it. You've got, right now with Hunter, you can just deadly shot it. With Big Game Hunter, which I honestly see coming back into this Ungoro metagame because of all of these like giant minions that are going to be just being dropped out from some of these quests. And just like the power to be able to have that 7+ attack at points, I think Big Game Hunter can make his resurgence now. With Tyrantus, if I wanted to, and we curved it right, with a couple of innervates and the coin, having Tyrantus out by when I have 5 mana crystal count, oh baby, you're staring down a 12/12. And depending on what class you are, there are ways to deal with it. Yes. But you better have them readily available. Like, I know Paladin can look at Tyrantus and laugh because it just goes, "Hi there, Mr. 10 cost 12/12. Meet Outdoor Peacekeeper, and you're going to follow his rules." And like I said, big game hunter all around. With Hunter, of course, again, the deadly shot. Anywhere else, though, it's going to be a hard sell to be able to get rid of. So, Bob, do you have...
I think I'm getting tired of the argument of, well, this card is garbage because of Deadly Shot and Big Game Hunter. Guys, when your opponent is throwing so many big threats at you, you're not going to be able to stop all of them. That is not a good reason to say a card is garbage. Because if your opponent makes the right deck list, yes, you could kill this, but then it brings out another threat. And what if you've already used your answers on other things that were dangerous and threats before, and he brings out this, and you cannot answer it? Saying that certain counters are out there does not make a card bad. This is a good card.
Yeah, that's why I said, if anything, like, after seeing the Druid quest, I kind of have to go on the personal apology tour for it and basically just say, yeah, I kind of honestly discounted it at first, and now I'm like, alright, well, I can see where this can actually be viable now. So we good there?
Yeah.
Alright. Ravasaur Runt. 2 cost, 2/2, neutral, battle cry. If you control at least 2 other minions, adapt. It's a beast. Alright. So, let's, if anything, just take a look at it from just the stat line and being able to adapt. Alright. Being able to trigger its battle cry, how many decks can we kind of throw out, just like right off the top of your head, that'll actually be able to trigger it? Well, of course, you've got whatever Zoo deck is going to be around, because Zoo always is in the meta. You've got the new, basically, Hunter Beast that's going to be running around and actually being an incredibly just powerful powerhouse. And then after that, it's just, well, whatever else can actually keep 2 minions on the board. Shaman, maybe like a menagerie sort of thing going on. You never know. I look at the viability with the Runt. The biggest complication that I have is making sure that I at least have 2 other minions on the board. And I would say I have to kind of like build around this, I won't say build around the card, but it's just you gotta make sure you build it and put it in the right deck. So, if anything, I do like it. So, Bulb.
I think this is a pretty cool card. I think there are a lot of decks that can use it. Hunter, depending on the deck build, I've been messing around with the idea of, and I'm going to actually have to sit down and actually build the deck when the card's released, but I am messing around with the idea of Ravasaur Runt having a home in my Raptor Hunter deck, but I think Hunter in general might be able to make use of him, because they can actually spawn out and get the minions out quickly and get him out. It's just going to depend on the build. You're right, I think he's going to find a home in Zoo. Shamans could use it. Shamans are able to basically fill out the board quickly, so they could use them. You forgot Paladins. Paladin can do it.
Yeah.
Those are some of the ones that I think are going to be more readily able to do it. And I think depending on your build, depending on what you need and what you're trying to run, this guy's going to find a home. He's not bad. So up next, we have Spiritsinger Umbra, which is a 4-cost legendary, 4-cost 3/4 legendary minion, with the effect after you summon a minion, trigger its Death Rattle effect. Ooh, Bulbalaki. Now, of course, first things first, everybody's going to be thinking N'Zoth Priest, but I'm actually, I have an affinity for Death Rattle. I have a Death Rattle deck I've been keeping around. It's in Wild right now. I've been keeping it around. It's called Necromancer, and it's been in I've had it around since Naxxramas. It is, believe it or not, it's a type that not a lot of people would think of, which is Death Rattle Warlock. And it actually kind of runs in a very zooey manner, I think. But I just look at this and I'm like, Umbra, meet Baron Rivendare. Oh my word. The nutty things I can do with this card. I am very excited about this card. Up until this point, I don't think there was really many legendaries that really grabbed me and said, here we go, until we got to Umbra. Umbra is probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite card in this set. Just because I'm going to go nuts with her. Anybody who's running any sort of Death Rattle deck needs to be running her. Whether you're in Wild or whether you're in Standard, you need to get her, you need to run her, because pretty much this is the game changer card. If you're playing Death Rattle, you want your effects to go off, and just being able to trigger those Death Rattle effects without them dying is huge. For me, I've been considering the holy Death Rattle trinity of Umbra, Baron Rivendare, and Kel'Thuzad. And just any of the two just getting together is great. I'm kind of backing off now about Umbra synergizing so much with Kel'Thuzad or N'Zoth, because really you have a lot of Death Rattle minions that are trying to get other minions on your side of the field. And in the long run, Umbra really doesn't work with Kel'Thuzad or N'Zoth very well, because you're not going to have the room for those Death Rattle effects to really go off. She works a lot better, I think, with Baron Rivendare. Maybe initially, when you have a very bare field, that might work with Kel'Thuzad, but yeah. But if we're talking but that's just in Wild. In Standard, she's going to have just as big an impact because of I would say the 3 Death Rattle classes that can be built. Mainly, you're going to be looking at Death Rattle Priest, which is going to be very big, I think, in the new meta. Umbra is going to allow them to really do a lot of still effects with their Crystalline Oracle and with their Shade. And then, of course, you have Hunter. And Death Rattle Hunter now is going to have multiple ways to trigger Death Rattle effects without killing their minions. And that could be huge as well. And then, of course, Death Rattle Rogue, if it's still around. This might give them a little bit more of an edge with some of the things that they're losing. So, this is very exciting, guys. This is one of the more exciting or most exciting cards in this expansion, and I can't wait. Oh, my word.
If anything, like, you immediately went, like, dove headfirst into Priest. My brain immediately dove face first into Death Rattle Rogue. And just trying to make it work and make it kind of like conceptualize and things like that. And then it just kind of like bounced into the ideal of Jade Rogue, because of the Jade Swarmer, and then being able to like shadow cast it to make it 1 cost. So like I've got this Spiritsinger Umbra on my board, and then I just start casting these 1 cost 1/1s to just not only get them on the board, but also popping the Death Rattle, getting these big-ass Jades on the board, and just going ham and going crazy with it. Like, plus, one of the things that wasn't mentioned was the because you had the Baron Rivendare.
Mm-hmm.
If you can keep the Spiritsinger alive turn 5, and then if you're able to drop Sylvanas turn 6. Oh, looky there. I'm just gonna, double mind control. And oh, hey, look! Sylvanas is still sitting here next to me. She's so good to me. But, yeah, like, if anything, I know that Kripparrian got to reveal the card the night before the big drop. And, if anything, I looked on the Hearthstone to see, like, where this card sits as far as how people have voted on it. Immediate hit. And, like, currently sits at 56.7% people think that this card is a meta-defining card. And this is one of those, like, first times where when you see it, and you see it in act, or at least when we get to potentially see it in action, just people coming together going, yes, this is a meta-defining card, and this is a very good card. Overall, people think this is one of the best cards in this set, and I cannot agree more.
Yeah.
Especially if I can combo it with Aya. Oh my god!
Now, to be fair, your first reaction when it came to Jades was not thinking Jade Rogue. You actually were thinking Jade Druid, and I told you that this card would not work with Jade Druid because Jade Druid only has one Death Rattle card. It's not worth it just to get synergy off of one card. I said there's actually one Jade class that actually gets most use, and you immediately like, oh crap, I forgot about Rogue. And then, yeah, Jade Rogue, if you're going to go put this in for a Jade deck, you take it Rogue all the way. It actually kind of makes Jade Rogue kind of viable now.
Kind of, if anything, like there was a list by RGU that went around that he was able to actually take to Legend. This just makes it to where now you get to drop this bad Mamma Jamma in and make it even better.
Eddie.
Yes.
Never say Mamma Jamma again.
Bite me.
I will. Just wait for a couple months, though.
But if anything, are we good on Umbra?
Oh, absolutely.
Alright. So, now we get into the actual large dump that happened. So, we start off with Fire Plume's Heart. It is the warrior quest. The quest is you play 7 taunt minions, and your reward is Sulfuras. Sulfuras is a 3-cost, 4/2 weapon. Battle cry, change your hero power to deal 8 random damage. I'm just gonna go out here and say it right now. To the people who listen and to the people who have discussed it at length when it came to seeing all these Ungoro cards coming out, and you have whined and complained and pissed and moaned, Control Warrior's dead. Jade makes it to where we can't play this deck anymore. Shut the hell up and take this quest and find a way to optimize your Control Warrior with all the rest of this stuff that you've gotten with this set to be able to be a more proactive control warrior deck. You can do it. I believe in you. Just do it. This card is bloody fucking amazing. And I personally love the ideal of Warrior shifting its identity back to being a control style, while yes, you will still have those people who will want to play in their puddle of Pirate Warrior, but really, you now have no excuse as to why you can't make Control Warrior viable and work and great again. No excuses. Bulb.
This is probably one of the most exciting quests that they have released. It's a quest I think is going to be very easy for Warrior now with all these different tools that they've been given over the past few expansions to actually accomplish. They have some very solid taunt minions. They've been given the ability to play taunt minions on curve, whatever. They've been given the ability. This is also covering some of, and we're going to get into it as we go along. This is covering some of Taunt Warrior's weaknesses as well. Taunt Warrior has always had a problem with being taunt decks in general have been, if you're just going pure taunt, tend to be very slow. You're just trying to keep from being totally on the back foot the entire time, and this one allows them to be more proactive. They have very strong taunt minions that basically do a lot of things for them that allow them time to breathe and set up a decent board and control the board until they can be proactive. And this gives them a late game play in Sulfuras. Sulfuras basically you become Ragnaros, and for at least I think has it 3 or 4, at least for a little bit, you're going to be able to actually start removing. Start actually swinging your weapon around and helping to remove things. And
it's a 4.
Again,
It was a 4/2.
4/2. So for 2 turns, I thought that was it. So the Ragnaros hero power is huge. It is absolutely huge. It will give you your taunt minions time to breathe, and there are so many awesome taunt minions in this set, combined with what we've gotten from past expansions. This is really Taunt Warrior's time to shine. This is an incredible quest. It's probably one of the best quests, if not the best quest in this expansion. I can't see any reason for Taunt Warrior not to actually go and rise now with all of the tools that they have. It basically helps cover some of the weaknesses they've had. Basically, be able to just curve out to get their footing, because normally taunt minions come strong from turn 4 on. Normally, there's a lot of strong taunt choices in the 4, 5, 6 range. This also gives them strong taunt options in 6 and above, and you have a good late game threat in the form of a Ragnaros hero power. Not really Sulfuras, but this good hero power to just start wiping things out and really control the board and really go proactive. This is an incredible quest. I'm going to be playing with this quest. I am excited about this quest. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, and if anything, just like to kind of like bring it on home. When you take a look at something like Majdormu Executus, it was a great concept. It really was. But changing your hero from whatever it was to this 8 health Ragnaros, that you did have this tap, fling, deal 8 random damage. If not for the fact of it going to 8 health, being able to keep your hero power, that would have been like incredibly strong, incredibly powerful. Now you have that. You have that from this quest. And from, the abilities for like taunt, and control and things like that, you're going to be able to take this and blend the best of both worlds and just get into the toolbox and go. Quit bitching and complaining and just get thinking. I'm done.
Well, next up we have Direhorn Hatchling, which is a 5-cost 3/6 warrior beast with taunt and death rattle. Shuffle a 6/9 Direhorn with taunt into your deck. I believe that 6/9 is also 5 cost as well. This is actually pretty solid. It's a pretty solid taunt minion by itself. The death rattle basically gives you more taunt minions to basically, that way you don't end up running out and overextending yourself. You're still going to have that 6/9 in your deck ready to go. This is pretty decent, and it's a very solid taunt minion in an already overcrowded 5-cost slot. 5-cost slot full of taunt minions. Hopefully it can. I'm not sure whether the death rattle will be enough to basically push it over the edge of things like Alley Armorsmith or Psychotron or the like. But you know what? Sludge Belcher saw play with summoning another taunt when it died. Maybe shuffling a 6/9 taunt minion into your deck might be enough for this one.
I think, if anything, when it comes to Direhorn Hatchling, I think it could replace the slot that Psychotron has in the deck. Because you've got this, and you've got Ally Armorsmith to be able to play into and play off of in that 5-cost slot. Plus, if anything, if you really, really want to, you could throw in a Faceless Manipulator to be able to copy whatever it is. Like either this or like the Alley Armorsmith that's already on board and potentially buffed up from some of the stuff that we've gotten from the mean streets of Guided Zan, to give yourself a really, really solid taunt board that your opponent just has to figure out how to finagle or get around. But the Hatchling, I do like. I really do. It's a very solid 5-drop. So, are we good there?
We're good.
And next up we have Giant Wasp. It's a 3-cost, 2/2, neutral, stealth poisonous beast. Alright. Stealth and poisonous. I mean, it's a neutral +1/+1/+1 altogether. Patient Assassin. So, for me, like, yeah, sure, I mean, like, the poisonous is going to be able to get rid of anything and everything. So, I don't know if you're going to really want to waste, like, boosting this thing up. So, I don't know. Bob, convince me otherwise of why something I would want to be able to actually do something with this in my constructed deck.
I think if you're playing this in your constructed deck, or if you're playing this in your deck, the whole point of this is to sit down, have it remove some of the bigger creatures that are around, have it remove an obstacle that's in your way, and the stealth allows it to kind of sit down. I've been debating over this, but because of the stealth, it is a lot better than something like Emperor Cobra, because it can just hide, and your opponent just can't remove it with direct removal. So basically, it can actually come out and just kill something when needed. So basically, that's what it is. It's a suicide bomber. You're not going to buff this thing up at all. It just suicide bombs. It gets rid of a problematic card, whether it's a big minion or if it's a taunt minion, whatever it is. That's its job. Sit there, don't be targeted, go kill thing. If that's what you want in your deck, and I always kind of like poisonous as a keyword, so I think if somebody's looking for a poisonous minion, this might not be a bad way to go. Was that what you wanted?
I'm good.
Okay, the next card is Dinomancy, which is a 2-cost hunter spell that says your hero power becomes give a beast +2/+2. Be afraid. Be very, very afraid. This pushes the hunter hero power to be less aggro focused and more mid-range focused on buffing up its beasts. And as we saw, this can be very, very frightening. Especially whether we're talking about raptors, whatever. If hunter no longer is concerned about rushing you down, they're going to want to play this. And if they play this, that means they can make their big things even bigger. Even more of a problem, even more of a threat. And you know what? This is a scary card. This is something I like. To play hunter, this is something I like. This is something I feel is really needed to really push the beast synergy and push more of a mid-range hunter deck. And for that, I'm excited. I am planning on running a copy of this card. But this hero power it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah, and if anything, I just want to make sure one thing is crystal clear, because this was stated in the stream. You play Dinomancy, your hero power becomes the give a beast +2/+2. If you somehow get to, or you're thinking, hey, I play 2, my beast become +4/+4. Wrong. Ben Brode has already stated that all it will do is make it to where it re-triggers, or at least it gives you the ability to be able to use your hero power a second time to be able to give another beast, or the same beast, +2/+2.
And it needs to be said, it's not giving a random beast +2/+2. You choose which beast is getting buffed.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was getting ready to cover. Thank you. Now to actually move on to the card itself. Holy hell! I keep seeing more and more things that keep making me want to main Hunter. But at the same time, I've got so many other deck ideas that I want to actually come out and test and play, and I may be in the casual workshop for a while, crafting these decks before I actually take it to ranked and start running. Because it's just, Hunter has literally got a shot in the arm with steroids in Ungoro. And it's just like, the more you see from it, the more you're going, I can do so much with Hunter. Hunter is just gonna spike in play. It's going to go from literally 0.whatever% to, I'm gonna say, in the top percent of Hearthstone classes once we start getting this metagame settled. Are we good on Dinomancy?
Oh yeah.
And
get ready,
how
the
are we looking?
Hunter is coming.
Yeah, I was like, how are we looking?
Go.
Alright. Next up we have Grievous Bite. Sticking with the Hunter theme here, where you deal 2 damage to a minion and 1 to adjacent minions. It's not bad. It really isn't. If anything, if you really wanted to, and this is just you being a person who would want to do this, you could run Blood Mage Thanos, Grievous Bite a creature for 3, and the adjacent minions for 2. Just because. If anything, as far as it just being a card in general, it is a cheaper, a lot weaker version of their explosive shot. So, if anything, yes, you can run it. But the better question being is, will you want to run it? And I think at this point we have to see how the meta is going to shape out to see whether or not Grievous Bite is a definitive mainstay. Like, if this came out in Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, I would have told you to include 2 of this in your deck, especially with all the pirates that were running around. Now, we've got it to where pirates are shaking in their boots. So, I don't know exactly how effective Grievous Bite is going to be. So, if anything, Bulb, sell me on it.
Man, it's a good thing that Power Shot is leaving, isn't it? Eddie, if this came out during Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, I would have called this a garbage card. Because Power Shot is 1 more mana, and it goes, okay, see those 3 minions? 2 to everything. Boom. It pretty much ups the damage to the adjacent minions and goes boom, 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 which makes it overall better. In Wild, Grievous Bite probably will not be ran, because either you're going to run Power Shot, you're probably just going to run some Power Shot. This one, I'm not sure whether you want to run Grievous Bite or run something else. It might just be that you might just want to focus on Exploding Shot. Grievous Bite could come in handy, but I don't know. I'm looking at this just thinking we've lost a card that pretty much was about the same cost and was a little bit more powerful. And I'm not sure if this really fills the bill. I think there might be some decks that run it, but with a lot of other things I've seen from Hunter, this may not be a go-to card. There's just a lot of other cards for you to really focus on.
And really, that's also, I mean, if we're going to be perfectly honest, when we talk about, like, Explosive Shot, Power Shot, and Grievous Bite at this point, we haven't gotten to give Grievous Bite its fair shake. But when we just take a look at the past 2 cards, where does he play?
The fact of the matter is, Explosive Shot is still going to be in the meta. It hasn't cost 3 more, but as for an AoE, it's more effective than Grievous Bite is. Power Shot is rotating out. It cost 1 more, and it did 2 damage to a minion and 2 damage to the adjacent as well. So it basically picked 3 minions going boom, 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 which, you know, still kind of weak, but it's a lot more effective than Grievous Bite. And the only way Grievous Bite is effective is played extremely early in the game. After that, Grievous Bite loses all effectiveness. And to be perfectly honest, there are a lot better spells for Hunter to really be playing in this meta than Grievous Bite. Yeah, they're probably not as AoE. If they're going to be playing any sort of AoE, they're probably just going to either hope for an Explosive Shot or just say, screw Grievous Bite. You know what? I'm just going to put connect an Explosive Trap to my face. They go to attack, 2 damage to everything on the other side of the field, which is probably more effective than Grievous Bite. So if a trap is more, if a secret is more effective as an AoE removal than the AoE removal, why in the world do you want to include the AoE removal? Hunter just has so many better options at this point. I just don't see myself including Grievous Bite in my deck.
Oh yeah, not at all.
Well, that's about it for this edition, guys. Just tune in tomorrow. We'll have more card discussions then. See you later.
Bye.